Thank you very much for joining us here on the Job Scam Report. This is Mark Anthony Dyson. If you want to know more about me and what I do, you can go to markanthonydyson.substack.com. You can also put in the Job Scam Report. I'll come up some everywhere. I'm joined by my host today, Ashley Price-Horton. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And if you want to get a hold of her and join her tribe or find out more information about her, you can go to CyberCareerAdvancement.com. Now, we were joking before we got on. We changed our URL like 3 times in the lower third. So you might see something a little bit different, and that's quite okay. I'm going to put it up there and keep it up there so people can get a hold of Ashley whenever you want to. And I was just sharing with her, just to start off the show, Newsweek just uh, published an article like at 11 a.m. a few hours ago. They report that job scams had went up 1,000% between May and late July. Now, this is a survey, and I'm sure this is a sample size, but they were quoting that out of the survey, 1 in 3 were getting some kind of scam communication. And so, we're not just kind of talking into the wind here. We're dealing with real life here and real life issues. And we thought one of the things and one of the vulnerabilities are resumes. When everybody is tuned into, that's what everybody knows. Everybody kind of struggles with it. People tweak it between 20, 30, maybe 100 times during their whole job search, depending upon how long they've been searching. But we want to get into it. And then, too, we had quite a response when we talked a little bit about the vulnerabilities of federal resumes. I think it was a good time now to talk about resumes in general, and maybe we'll get a little time to talk about federal resumes. So are you ready, Ashley? You ready to roll?
Absolutely. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Okay, so here we are. It's kind of a multi-edged sword, so to speak. And maybe we just start with the basics as to why resumes are a cybersecurity risk.
Yeah, so I'll say this. Resumes contain a lot of information about you as an applicant. And when that information is paired with maybe some other details, which we'll share later in this session, it
Hmm.
creates the perfect scenario for scammers to not only try to pretend to be you, but to also steal your identity, steal your information, potentially drain your bank accounts. It is the gateway to a scammer's ultimate journey of taking everything that you want and that you've worked hard for. So that's why you want to be very careful about how you're using your resume, what is contained in it, which we're going to be talking about today, and who you're submitting that to, because you ultimately want to get a job offer and not one day look and see that your bank accounts have been drained.
Yeah, that's a great summary. I had a guest on a couple of weeks ago, and he kind of put it perfectly. He said that the resume is kind of a vector for threat actors, in short.
Yep.
And I think that was true. It hit me, but I just never heard it put that way, and it was it's quite compelling. So I think everyone needs to pay attention. If you're listening in the chat or you're watching in the chat, feel free to put your question there. Say hi to us. Let us know that you're around. Even tell us maybe where you're from, and we're going to get deep into it. So I think people are wondering. Well, what kind of personal information's on there? Now, I know that people tend in the past have put like their address and phone number, and we've told people to take off your address. We've been telling that for a long time now because that's a real vulnerability. The phone number can be a vulnerability too. In fact, it is, and we're going to talk a little bit about what you could do, as well as some other information. So let's start with your top vulnerability.
Yeah. So I don't know that I have a top vulnerability, but I definitely have vulnerabilities that I can share with you guys.
Okay.
Um, some of which Mark just mentioned, your phone number and your address. Take your address off. Just add your city and state so at least you pop up when they do distance checks against your resume. So just city and state, but not your full address. When it comes to your phone number, give them a different phone number. Give them a Google Voice number. A Google Voice number can be free for you, and you have the ability to determine, okay, if a call is coming in, is it coming in to me because I applied for a job, or is it because it's a personal contact, right? And you'll be surprised when you submit applications how many spam messages you get. And I'm sure the last thing you want to do is have to change your personal line because you're being bombarded with scams. So those are two things right there. Let's get a
Mhm.
little bit deeper. Email
Okay,
address.
okay.
Email email addresses can open you up to a lot of phishing attacks. And so they will send you links and say, hey, schedule a session with me. And you click that link, and next thing you know, you've got malware on your computer and you don't even know it. Or you're being taken to a page to submit additional information. And those additional pieces of information are then used to attack you later. Right. So you want to be careful with the email address. So, what I like to tell people is create a separate email address that you use just for job applications and nothing more. Nothing else. Do not use your personal email address. So, we address that.
Right.
Another thing, I'm sorry, Mark, were you going to say something?
Well, I was going to say something about the email address. The email addresses, I always recommend Gmail. I think you pick the email address that's going to supply the best filter. In other words, you're able to filter the spam the way that you desire or completely block it. You can block people really easy, like on Gmail, or if they have you subscribe to something, you can unsubscribe via email. You don't have to go to their site in order to do it. So I think there's some other advantages. And as far as a phone number, I've said in multiple podcasts and in articles that Umail and services like Umail are great as a way to use a vanity phone number. So they're not calling you directly. They don't have access to your actual number because your actual number could be tied to like a Zelle or Cash App or something. And it could possibly, when there's some kind of breach or break in, it could make you more vulnerable directly to your cash. So those are kinds of things that you want to keep in mind. Uh, it doesn't, and you just got to be responsive. And I think Umail has one of the best voicemails around. You can even customize your voicemail message to specific callers. So I think if you use that, I don't remember if Google Voice has that same feature. I don't remember. I have a Google Voice. I use it, but I don't use it to that extent. But you can go ahead and add on or continue, Ashley.
Yeah, all really, really good points, especially when we think about like phone number spoofing, right? Or
Yeah,
email spoofing. You're not trying
yeah,
to give people easy access to be able to do that.
right.
It's another interesting thing about resumes, right? Some people will put down their references inside of their resume, or they'll put down their references at the next stage, right? They haven't
Right.
properly vetted the company. And so, guess what usually ends up happening? If the company is a scammer and they say, hey, we got your resume, we're interested in working with you, we would like to talk to your references, right? But
Mhm.
the only references they want to talk to are your previous managers. Well, now they may just be trying to do some social engineering here. They may not even have any desire to hire you, but they want to gain access to prior managers so that they can get access into their companies and into their
Mhm.
systems, right? So then they send them an email to your prior manager, hoping that they'll click on that link so they can penetrate into that company system. So it goes beyond just you. Sometimes it's to target you, sometimes it's to target your references. So you got to really be careful about what applications you're submitting, what information you're putting into that resume too.
Yeah, you don't have to put even references upon requests
Period.
anymore on the bottom of your. You don't have to mention references because they're going to contact you and they're going to make sure that they're going to get the most updated information. Just make sure that your references are going to be the ones you want them to vouch for you. And to say
Yeah.
that, this is a little side note. Yeah, people need to really take stock of who they ask for references from. You just can't ask a former coworker in many cases. It's got to be somebody that has had a closer relationship with you, working relationship with you, a boss, a former boss. Maybe sometimes a coworker will be able to have that access, and that varies. But as far as you work in the same company with someone from the first floor and you have been on the eighth, that doesn't count in most cases.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, in the past when I was a recruiter many years
Hmm.
ago, I had to contact a manager to do reference checks, and that manager said I would never hire that person. I have no idea why they put my name on their resume. I would never hire them again. They were awful. And I
Yeah.
couldn't give them the job.
Right, right. And it's still happening for the most part. I think people find a mixed bag, but you should be aware and cross your T's and dot your I's when it comes to that. So let's continue. What else do you have for us, Ashley? I
Absolutely.
actually have a question about, but go ahead. I'm gonna see if you mention it.
Okay, absolutely. And I see Stacy's comment about the email address just dedicated for the job search is brilliant. Yeah, I highly recommend it. You can check it every single day, but at least you know anything coming in from there is an application you submitted. So,
Right,
or at
right.
least in theory, it's supposed to be.
You're right. Exactly.
So let's go a little bit deeper. So your certifications, your licenses do not include the actual certification number or the license number. Just put down that you received it. For example, I work with cybersecurity folks. So maybe you got the CISSP certification. You will just list that you're CISSP certified, the issuing organization, the month and year you received it, and potentially even the month and year it expires, right? But you're not going
Mhm.
to include the numbers for verification. Let that be when they do their background checks and what have you. Okay.
Right. Now, I got a question for you. Are some of these organizations, like in healthcare, if somebody has certified, they're certified with a state board or something like that, right? So, with a lot of the certifications in the cyber world and other places, and some of you can chime in on in the chat, whether they have a registry that could be checked for those certifications. And I have a specific reason why to ask that, but I want to hear what your point of view is.
Yes, so many of them do, and you can check by first and last name. But when you do that, not all the time does it give you that license number or certification. It just says valid, but it
Mhm.
depends.
Yeah, that I found that to be true. Now, a scam that I was told about a few weeks ago from Michael Schumack, that there are fake certifications being offered uh,
Yes.
in different posts, and they'll say you can get the certification. We require this before we hire you, and they get you to pay a fee plus your payment information, where they can go in and rob your bank account. In addition to also whatever information you give them on a resume to impersonate you. So it's kind of like the perfect storm, and people have fallen into that. Have you heard about fake certifications and the things that people need to watch out for?
So I'm glad you mentioned that because I think we must have seen the same post because I recently saw
Maybe.
that too. And I was like, oh, interesting. Scammers are going to get more and more advanced in
Yeah.
their techniques for deceiving. So they know people want to get certified so that they can land a good job. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to target those people. Right. So you have to
Hmm.
really do your due diligence. Okay. Just because something says that they're certifying doesn't mean they're really certifying. So, what
Right.
I personally recommend is find out who that accreditation company or organization is, right? And then go to their website and look for a trainer that is authorized to train through them. Okay. Make
Excellent point.
it may cost you a little bit more money, but I promise you it's going to be to their standard. So you're making sure you're getting taught what is um what is the current standard, and at the same time you reduce the likelihood of being scammed or taken advantage of in those situations.
Yeah. And be careful how these certifications are positioned.
Yeah.
Sometimes they may have you and scammer, and we're getting to murkier waters when we talk about people who promise that they'll get you certified somewhere, but they're not tied to the organization in any kind of way. They just may have happened to pass the test. But the way that they'll position it is that you attend this 6 week or 8 week certification training I'll get you ready for, for you to take it. But then when you get to take their information, then you still got to pay a whole nother fee for the certification. So you be sure you understand what the terms are whenever you are involved with some kind of certification, so
Yeah.
that you can keep people, the wrong people, even the people who might be real but tend to have scammy behavior, so you won't get swindled in that kind of way. Did you want to add on to that, Ashley?
Yeah, to the point of like certificate certifications, I'm just thinking about federal employees or prior
Mm-hmm.
federal employees. On your resume, you likely have your clearance. You likely have secret clearance or top secret clearance,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not applying for other federal jobs. You're thinking, okay, how can I go back into the private sector? But you have those things on your resume, that makes you a target too. Because
Yeah.
now you potentially have government level information that I can source through you through your interview just by asking you what were some of the things that you did? What software did you use? Like, we need to see that your software aligns with us. So, what software did you use with the intention of just gathering intel for their own things on the back end? So, you really got to be careful, especially if you've ever worked in the government, on listing your clearances and what type of clearance you have.
Right. You got to make sure you're sending it to an official person or organization.
Yeah.
And you just, it's not something that you want to give somebody. Could you review my resume? And depending upon how up to date you are, now they're requiring federal resumes to the ones that are hiring. You only need a couple of pages, but your old one might be 10, 12. When I worked with the federal government, some of them were 25 pages long because they had all this experience on them. That's gold that you need to hold on to, and not just anybody should have that information, even if it's to check in whether you just met them and you don't really have that trust factor with them. So I think people really need to be a lot more vigilant and shrewd about how they disperse their information.
Yeah, and Mark, imagine this, and I want all of you guys to just imagine this situation with me. You can even close your eyes if you want to. You find a job on LinkedIn or these other company
Mhm.
platforms that you think is amazing. You're like, okay, I need to apply for that job, right?
Right.
You apply to it, you fill out their form, it tells you to create an account, you create your account. It asks you to create a list of security questions that it's already populated. What's your mother's maiden name? Where was the last place that you lived? What's the first make, model, and year of your car, right? On top of your resume, what's your date of birth, social security number, what have you. Now you have basically everything you need to steal that person's identity. And they didn't
Yeah.
even know. They just thought they were creating a great application, right? So
Right.
now when they go to target data breach data and they see your email and your accounts, they have a higher likelihood of breaking into your accounts because they know your email, potentially your passwords, because most people reuse them. They know your mother's maiden name. They know all those details now, all the details you
Mhm.
freely gave under false pretense. So really be careful in this job hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you know, there's been a number of data breaches that have happened even before Career Builder and Monster sold their share.
Yeah.
They sold that, and they still were able to get hundreds of millions of dollars for something that didn't work anymore, mostly because of your private information.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can grasp how precious your information needs to be for you, that somebody should value your information more than you do, that could be kind of a scary thought. And that's why we're
Yeah.
always trying to send up smoke signals and flares and ring the bell as much as we possibly can. What else do you have for us, Ashley?
Yeah, so we've talked about address, we've talked about phone number, we've talked
Hmm.
about your references, your certification licenses, your address. The next thing would be the actual content inside of your resume as it
Hmm.
pertains to the companies that you worked with. So some of these scammers are not necessarily targeting you as the individual, they're targeting the companies that you worked with, right? And so they're
Right.
trying to figure out their way in. So on one hand, this is something that you can't really prevent, right? But at the same time, you can help to reduce the likelihood of things happening to that company by paying attention to who you're submitting applications to. So let's say, for example, you work with a company like Disney, all right,
Mhm.
and you put down Disney administrative assistant or whatever, and you put down all the tools that you've used, your processes, how frequently you were attending these meetings, what department you were in, what projects you were in, your
Mhm.
accomplishments. Even your accomplishments could be weaponized against you,
Right.
right? Even those accomplishments could be weaponized against you. And so when you're in your interviews, because you will get interviews and they will seem legit sometimes, pay attention to the kind of questions you're getting asked. Does it feel like they're asking me questions to get to know me? Or are they asking questions to know more about the company itself? Right. So are they trying to figure out what my skill sets are? Or are they trying to figure out what projects that company is working on?
Mhm.
Especially important when it's a legitimate company, but it's a competitor. So you don't want to get hit with that like trading insider secrets kind of thing because you could potentially be held legally liable. So just protect yourself.
Great points. And I think people need to keep in mind as you're writing your resume, you're trying to flesh out your points, is that and that's why we always talk about when we talk about resume writing, talk a lot about your results and accomplishments and all of that. All of that is supposed to be your strengths are also a vulnerability to a scammer. So I don't know if there are some ways to, we're talking about minimizing as opposed to preventing completely.
Mm,
That's the gist of it that I'm getting. How about you, Ashley?
yeah, I absolutely agree.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Uh, let's talk about, I think one thing, and I'll bring this up. Some people put their salary history on their resume for whatever reason why, but that's also a vulnerability, correct?
Yeah, please don't do that. Don't list your salary information. You might have had to do that maybe for some like federal government type roles potentially.
Hmm.
That's not my area of expertise, but I think you have to disclose that kind of stuff. But not private sector. So all of your salary, keep that to yourself.
Right.
Seriously. If you got that on
Right.
your resume, remove it now. If you got a picture on your resume, if you remove that now too.
Absolutely. You shouldn't, for the private sector, it's rare when a picture is going to really be needed. Probably 98 out of 100 times that your picture is not going to be necessary. I can see where if you're applying to a modeling agency or a doctor's office, if he just wants pretty nurses, that kind of thing. But otherwise, that's something that you don't really need to have as a general rule. And by the way, don't come for me. I'm not trying to be sexist. I'm trying to be realistic.
Right.
I'm trying to be realistic here. And a little bit of mirth, but I'm trying to be realistic. Uh, so, so yeah, that's the salary history is, there's usually a pattern to salary history,
Yeah.
and people don't think about that in their lives when, especially if they get a scam offer and that the pay that they're offering is nowhere near what they're used to getting as far as salary. You should use that as data to defend yourself against scammers
Yeah.
because they're not going to have a pay jump that well to do something that's a lot less than what the skills that you bring to the table.
Yeah, and they may be thinking, okay, if this person is doing, $130,000 a year, I wonder how much they have in their savings account. I wonder how much they
Exactly.
have in retirement and how much of that I can tap by just asking a few right questions and offering.
Uh, Absolutely. Every line on your resume is a breadcrumb or a clue to who you are.
Yes.
So you've got to be, again, take this information now. What else did you have to add?
So LinkedIn is an interesting topic and it comes up a lot amongst recruiters. Your
Hmm.
LinkedIn profile is your resume. You need to include your stuff on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile. And so I, I, I have mixed feelings about this, and I say it quite a
Mm-hmm.
bit. On one hand, I try to teach my clients to follow the rule. So if you're trying to get recruiters to contact you, then you're going to have to put this stuff on your profile. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, recruiters aren't the only people looking at this stuff.
Right.
So are those bots that are saying, kindly send me your resume. I have the perfect opportunity for you. They're reading that stuff too, and they're getting that information. So maybe what you do is you take your resume and you scale it back to only
Mm-hmm.
details that can't harm you personally long term, right? Um, so on my personal profile, I don't think that I include any of my details. You got to get the resume
Mm-hmm.
for that.
Right.
I don't include anything that I've done with prior companies. Could that hurt me if I was ever to job hunt again? Potentially. But I'd rather that than to one day wake up and think I got a job and it's not. Right. So
Right.
you got to weigh the pros and the cons some and figure out how you can make tweaks to get the same result, but in a way that protects you.
Right. So the LinkedIn profile, and I've thought about this for years. I've had a number of discussions on my other podcast about it, but it doesn't have to be exactly the same word per word. In fact, it's better served if you make it a very short an accomplishment, a result, something that's going to be very direct, that the employer is going to want to see,
Yeah.
but necessarily would be intrigued to get your resume to read more of the detail. Would you
Ex-
agree about that?
exactly. I like to say, leave a little something, something, right?
Yeah,
Like
little something, something, right?
that's going to help you in your negotiation. So you don't want to put everything out on the table. You want to put the main stuff like your bait, right? And
Right.
this is just the psychology, right? You want to put your bait on the line and say, here's the bait. This is my resume. Let me reel some of them in. And when they start asking you for an interview, that's when you start laying stuff out. But you got to make sure you actually want that, what just came on your line. And you got to
Hmm.
verify, is this legit? Is this not? Is this a good fit for me? Is it not? And for the ones that are not, immediately end them. I mean, in a good way, not like fishing. Okay, sorry. It went left.
Right. But having said that, with scammers, you can be short and disruptive and just cut off communication. And but having said that, once they get your information and get enough information, they'll also block you.
Yes,
They use the blocking features too, so you can't go back and report them accurately. So if you find out and you suspect somebody the first time around, get their URL to their LinkedIn. And also, I would say, and this we're going really to Jay's territory of LinkedIn profiles, but I think it's, and I said this on Monday when we were talking, see if you can find the original profile that seems to be stolen from from you know the person that has the fake profile,
mhm,
because at least you can let them know on two ends: one, that the original is alerted so they can report it, but secondly, so you could report it to your network. And we just got to cover all the areas we possibly can when it comes down to it. You agree, Ashley?
absolutely. I've had to do it myself, do a reverse image lookup and find out who the real person was and
Hmm.
the scammer that was contacting me. And you put them
Yeah,
on blast, so
that's
more
right.
people.
Put them on blast. But also, you've got to also now go to Google and see where else they have your information flying around, because they don't care about privacy. So your stuff is going to be public, but with the wrong person. And they could have different names, but the same profile information on Facebook, Instagram, and all the other places, TikTok and all the other places. And then really whoever looks you up possibly can miss you because they see the fake profile.
That's right.
So What else you got for us, Ashley?
So let's talk about metadata because this is very
Thank
really
you. Thank you. I think we need to have a pretty big discussion on metadata.
was this the area you were going to bring up?
This was what in my notes, and I have several reasons why. But I'm gonna let you go through it. But this is in my own research. I was researching too. Did you know that? In my own research, and I just found this out yesterday. How critical the metadata is, and
Mhm.
that led me down a whole nother hole. But you go ahead. I'm gonna let you start out.
Yeah, there's a lot of details that can come in that metadata. So if you ever go to your document, like a Word document, and let me see, I can't remember offhand the way you go in. I think it's like file, it's definitely in the file area. File
Hmm.
about document or something like that, or information, what have you. You can get a lot of information out of there, like when this document was created, right?
Hmm.
What is the version number of this? So if you're using the same resume that you've used back in, 1992, it's going to show that in the metadata, right?
Right.
One thing though that's really, really interesting is biopaths. So, for example, let's say I decide to put um, my resume in a folder in my computer, and it's like the folder is like, hey, C drive, documents, resume
Hmm.
documents, da 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 da, and it just keeps going. And then you have that document. Well, now they have an idea of what my folder structure is, where I'm hosting documents like these. It makes it a lot easier for people to attack you and get that information.
Right.
Um, and just, people are applying to jobs too from their work devices. It's a no, but they do
Hmm.
it, right? They go to work and
Right.
they're feeling frustrated, so they download it to their system, fill it out, and start submitting applications. Now they got that folder structure. So you just got to be careful about these things. So you can actually, if I'm not mistaken, if I recall correctly, you can remove a lot of that information before it gets sent out. You just have to go on Google and look at the steps.
Now I got a question.
Okay.
Um, uh, there is apparently a difference between because employers ask for resumes mostly in two ways: either upload a Word document or upload a PDF document. Now, does a PDF metadata is that presented differently than a Word document?
That's a great question. So I can't answer that because I have not reviewed metadata of PDF documents. I've only
Hmm.
seen it on Word, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So if any of you guys who are listening to this know that, please put it in the chat so we can see what your
Yeah,
thoughts are.
exactly. This is one of the holes that I kind of went deep into. I can't verify it all, but one of the theories that I've seen is that this is one of the reasons why that there's a little small difference. There's the difference. It's like breadcrumbs different with the PDF and having more privacy or more security than the Word document. Just a
Mm,
little. I think back at one time they consider the PDF to be the end all be all as far as having something private, but that's not particularly true, especially when you've got the data breaches that have happened
yeah.
over the past few years, and that's what they're actually going to be able to use. They're using those breadcrumbs to not just follow uh, get more information, but to also find out more about the sender of that information. That's the way I understand it. Somebody in the chat, please correct me. Um, because I know I'm connected to some recruiters that know the deep side of this. Uh, I may even have you come on the show. So if you have more information, I think that's pretty critical about that. But I'm glad, Gerald, you were going to say something else.
I don't remember now.
Oh, okay. Well, cyber criminals, from what I've learned over the last year, every little bit of information that they can get that they don't have yet is a big step forward for them.
Yeah.
As resumes, especially because it's one of your most vulnerable documents. It's the one that contains the most personal information, other than maybe a credit card application that would have all the information that they had. Those two, they have enough information to start to buy houses and cars and condos in your name.
Yes, speaking of which, it's always a good practice to lock your credit profiles and unlock them when you need them. Unlock them maybe like an hour or so before you need to apply for something, but keep them locked. There's too many data breaches and opportunities for people to create accounts in your name at this point. So lock them up.
Yeah, the danger is actually in the details, right? Like the year you graduated,
Hmm.
that's pretty important. License numbers. Lord knows if you are a nurse and you put your license number on a resume, that's a problem, right? So, scammers are piecing together a lot of different information to for a profile of you. So it's not like they get one presentation; they keep tabs, and this information gets passed around for years and years because it's sold from scammer to scammer, or it's gathered, it's put together as a profile for you. As I look at news that comes across from other companies, there's scammers that have 40,000 to 100,000 people on their database that
Hmm.
they're trying to scam. So that's why, again, all these little things you might think it might be trivial, they matter in the long term.
Right.
So what else we need to fill in the blank as far as metadata?
So I don't know too much about PDF. Um,
Okay.
it's it's interesting because there's always a discussion on should I submit my document as a PDF or should I submit my document as a Word document, right?
Hmm.
Or I'm a career coach, for example. I'm not saying I'm a career coach, but for people who are career coaches, should I open this Word document or should I open this PDF document? Like, is it safe to do so? And so don't think that just because you get a resume that resume is safe either for you to open, right?
Right.
Like on the opposite end, maybe one of your quote unquote friends or somebody connected with you says, "Hey, can you take a look at my resume and let me know what you think? I saw your resume, your LinkedIn profile looks great. Can you check mine?" Right? And you don't know that person. They could have embedded anything into that document and
Right.
now you're hit, right?
I,
So,
I wonder if, we tell people don't write in white in the white spaces of your resume. I wonder if people actually. I know there are a lot of people who still do that. Who've been telling them for years not to do that, but they put information thinking that it's going to be picked up. And this is a whole nother discussion that it's
yes.
going to be picked up by the ATS. We
Mhm.
know that to be false, and that it actually makes your resume digitally look horrible. But at the same time, uh, that's also potentially a space for the little breadcrumbs that we talked about.
Yep, and I've had people argue me down about that. Don't
Oh,
do that.
really?
Like, please don't do that white font thing in there. But I'm gonna do it because I think it works. Did you come to me because you want to debate me or you want best practice?
They
And
want and I understand that because they want every leverage point, even if it's a crumb, uh, they
yep.
want it to matter. And it really doesn't. And in fact, the leaner, the better.
And I'm like, all I have to do if I'm the person looking at your resume is do control A and make everything black and I can see everything. So like how does that really benefit you? Or if I just even if it's a PDF, I can find out. So
Hmm.
don't think that it's a PDF, I can't just copy and paste everything into a new doc and see what's going on. Now I'm going to start questioning you and not in a good way.
Right, right, exactly. And, those, again, e- even if I don't know. Some people try to put too much information in their resume and not realizing that they care about the relevance. So even if you're in the private sector where they really want to know really the experience you have that relates to them. within the last 10 to 15 years, that if you put 25 and 30 years, you've also given them a whole lot more clues to you than they would ever need. Because just think of the times when they ask for like a secret clearance question, like what was the city you were born in, or what year you graduated from college. That's on your resume. It makes you pretty vulnerable for an attack.
Yes, exactly. What college did you graduate from? Although, it's funny because I feel like organizations never expected that years later, the very
Hmm.
same things that they use to keep people safe would be the things that got manipulated to get them hurt.
Yeah. Yep.
The exact
Absolutely.
same things. Hmm,
Absolutely. Now, I was just thinking too that Word documents are can be edited.
they can.
PDFs usually can't. You have to kind of have the setting set for a PDF. Although they could be, most people won't be able to do it. It can be done,
Can be
but
done.
you can at least, again, you don't want to make it easy, so you want to make it read only, of
Mm,
course. But supposedly, as I was going down this hole, this point came up about that the Word documents contain what they call small scripts or macros,
yep,
and attackers sometimes send resumes with embedded malware disguised as job applications.
that's right. Take a look at this job description and they put a link to it, but they don't include those details in your post. And they love to do this on LinkedIn. It'll be like, kindly
Mhm.
review the description. If you hover your mouse over it, it'll tell you at the bottom like where it's taking you. I would suggest not clicking on that. Like, don't even waste your time. Tell them to kindly paste it in the chat. And it's because you
Excellent.
protect yourself. And on top of that, there is this website called Virus Total,
Ah,
VIRUS total.com. And this is a website where you can scan websites, documents, what have you, and determine its likelihood of being malicious or not, right?
ah,
So,
great point. Great
yep,
point. Wow, that's a new one. Could you be sure you write that in the chat, and then too, I'll be sure to include it in the show notes as well, so people can go to, and as well as resources like that. Uh, Be sure that you're still doing your homework whenever you apply to a company, no matter how you apply. Make sure the company's legit. And I've given out who is WHOIS.com. In fact, if you go to the job scan report, there's like 20 sites that I have where you can check on a company in different aspects of a company to make sure that you're applying to a legit company.
mhm,
And to make sure that at least you have a chance to keep your privacy, because you, again, something you should cherish as goal. And having said that, the whole discussion again is not that we're going to prevent these tips aren't going to completely prevent scammers from getting your information, but we think that's another step forward in making your information more secure.
correct.
So I
Because
just want to be sure we say that. Go ahead.
that's right, because the goal is prevention, so you can do a little less reacting. But in prevention, that doesn't mean that things won't happen. So,
Right.
um, don't beat up on yourself if you find yourself a victim. It happens. Just do what you can to protect yourself moving forward.
Right on. Anything else you want to add before we sign off today? And I do thank you so much for spending this time with me. The next time we get together, I hope we get together as a collective. And by the way, Russell Irby comes on in about 45 minutes. Uh,
Exciting.
so he'll give us the HR overall view of how HR is trying to fight job scams as well as fake employees and fake job candidates.
Yeah,
So
that's
we'll get
amazing.
it all covered. But did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, and I'll say this, guys. to all of you guys who are listening live, because I see quite a few of you, if you have any comments or questions, please put them in the chat now so we can answer
Mhm.
them live for you right now. If it's okay, James, I'd like to share my screen really quickly and kind
Yeah,
of show you guys that tool that I was talking about.
yeah, and it's Mark, not James, but
What?
I
Oh
understand.
man, I'm sorry, Mark. See, I
That's all
saw
right. That's all
James.
right. You got grace. You gave me grace when I was calling you April.
April. I don't get it. Everybody calls me April. Even my friends in Atlanta who have known me for years call me April.
Really? I don't
I'm
know
like,
why that
April,
comes to the brain. So I get it. My father was named James, so I don't feel
really?
yes.
Oh, look, this is
So
I'm giving all the details to the scammers. What was your father's first name, James?
yeah, but James James Dyson is also the mogul for Dyson vacuums in England. So it's not that it's so uncommon. They can get them all confused. They didn't get the middle name.
So we find
So
out who your dad is.
right, it's
No,
better to do the other James.
so this is the website. It's real plain and simple, Virus Total. And what you will do is you can, so here's the strategy that I would recommend you do. Okay. So if
Hmm.
you ever go to a job board like indeed.com and it says click the button to apply, I don't like clicking buttons, even on those job board search. So what I
Hmm.
will do is I will hover over the mouse, I will right click, and I will say, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I will say copy link. I can't see it in this one, but I will put copy link before I click
Right.
any. And then
Hmm.
I'll paste it in here. And I want to see what does it say. So I'm going to put my own website because I know my website is legitimate,
Hmm.
but I want you guys to see what happens, okay? It's going to scan it against a whole bunch of different vendors' thought process on this, right? So,
Hmm.
what I like to say is if the majority of these are showing up clean, right, then you should be kind of fine. But if you go on here and you see all malicious,
Hmm.
don't click that link. Don't even apply to that job at that point. It's not safe.
Excellent point. Love it. But if you put it in Google, though, if the if you put the URL in Google, in the Google search, or maybe even use something a little bit more secure like Brave, the company should come up in the search results.
And that's the
And it and 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 if it does not come up, don't go to that link
even
because
if it does, scan it first because
scan it first.
Google
Yes.
Google will still index malicious websites. So just because it shows up doesn't mean it's safe to click on.
Right, right. Though I think in some of the virus scams that you put on your browser will pick up whether it's a site that's safe or it's not. Somebody can double check that for me. But I know Norton did for a lot of years. Did that? You put it in, and they'll say this says they won't say that's malicious. They'll say it's either unknown or that it's not particularly safe. And again, feel free to put that information in the chat. I'll include you and your name, and those of you right in the chat, I'll give you credit for it. And if you want me to put your URL in, as long as it's legitimate, I'll put it in the show notes as
Yeah.
well. Or I'll link to your LinkedIn profile so people can check you out as you can have more visitors there. I believe that we covered quite a bit. There's a possibility we might end up doing a part two, depending upon what the feedback we get and the people questions. I know there'll be other resume writers who might want to chime in. And again, I am open, and I think Ashley, it's the same thing with you. Um, if we need to be corrected, we want to get the best information out there.
Okay. Um, Mark, I need to
Yes,
say something really quick. Nobody else
go
can
ahead.
see my screen. So, guys, what you'll need to do is click that link, or go to what was it? Virus. I can't even remember the name. Virus Total. VirusTotal.com. If you couldn't
Mhm.
see my screen. We got a couple of comments and questions in here, Mark.
Okay, that just appeared. So let's get ready to answer. I know you got a hard stop in 10 minutes, but it's
Yeah.
good that we're able to do. And I'm glad people are chiming in. James Rose says that correct. You're safer using PDF Word docs opens a whole lot of problems. Good catch. Thank you very much, James. James, I'm going to catch up with you, dude, because you've got a lot of great information as well. He
James is
said, that, yeah, he's in your tribe too, isn't he?
he's no, but he is one of my one-on-one clients and he is amazing.
Gotcha. Yeah, he is a really great dude, and I haven't even met him yet. But he chimes in on every show. Every show he gives us come. So the company doesn't have an articulatable, transparent presence, whether it's their own website or social media. It's a red flag. Great point.
Yeah.
Excellent point. And if people, you've got to vet from the place of suspicion. I know in our minds, in our psyches, we want to believe what we see. Doubt it until they give you 99.9 accuracy of information. I see one LinkedIn user. I don't see their name. I can't see them from my side. They might be on YouTube, possibly. What about sending a plain text version right in the email? Ashley?
Don't do it. Like a plain text version of your resume, I would say please don't do it. And reason being is it makes it really hard for that recruiter to be able to like follow up with you, especially if it's a larger company, right?
Mhm.
So and usually, I'll tell you this, I would have to take the resume, parse it, which basically means let the software absorb the information it needs from the
Mhm.
resume, and it's done automatically. Well, when you do it as a plain text document, I can't do that. I have to manually put that stuff in now. So you have a higher likelihood that I'm not going to even touch your resume as a recruiter because now you're giving me more work and I don't have the time. That quota.
Right. And recruiters are getting 1,000 resumes per job posting. And
If not,
most of them are really, yeah, most of them are really bad. If they can't read it, why should they spend the time with you? So I
yeah.
would
And
probably go ahead.
the information that you're posting is still the same, whether it's a plain text document or it is a Microsoft Word based document. The contents is still the same. So you want to do that research. But I would just say if you're going to send your resume, make sure you vetted that company first. And don't,
Absolutely.
there's this stereotype, right? And I hate to do this, but it's so common. I gotta speak on it. There is this stereotype where if the person who is contacting you has like an Indian accent, that it's automatically a scam. I get asked that question a lot because people have been targeted. But I will tell you this, one of the software engineering positions that I landed from somebody from India, right? So
Mhm.
I say that to say you still got to do your due diligence, but don't automatically disqualify an opportunity because of someone's accent or where they live. Companies do outsource overseas because cost of labor is different.
Right. I think we get into territory, and we may have to talk about this sometime, is the biases that we have of who we trust and who we don't trust. Just because there's an English voice doesn't automatically should give us a trust factor with them. At the same time, somebody who is in another country, they have an accent, that doesn't mean they should automatically get the distrust. And that's part of the fight that we have along with AI and along with, all the other uncertainties that we have.
And just because there's a voice doesn't mean it's a human.
And just because there's a voice or that there's faces doesn't mean it's a deep fake, but we'll talk about that another time. But anyway, Ashley, thank you so much for joining me. This was an excellent session. This is like no other. And I hope that there are others. I hope that there are career coaches and resume writers who might have even a deeper insight could get into the weeds for a little bit and let me know. I tell you what, if you do, in the terms of job scams, let me know because I will feature it in my newsletter. I will
Awesome.
feature it. I will feature it in other places and places where I write. I'll come back and contact you for a quote. Now, currently, I am on hiatus, but but
Yes.
nevertheless, you know me throughout the years. I'm always writing somewhere. I have a clients that they come to me for one-offs and things like that. You just never know. So there you
Okay.
go. So we're going to call it here. Thank you very much for the Job Scam Report podcast for joining us here. Uh, as I always say, clarify, verify, but don't just apply. And stay scam free, y'all. See you next time.
Bye, guys.